And if we go back to the world of photography and the in-person sales and the fear surrounding that, and especially the closing of the sale.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of people that I've talked to and that we've talked to over the years that fear just, it's enormous at the end.
Yeah.
And especially if you're building these large sales, which we hope that everybody is, you know, to deliver that message at the end is terrifying.
Mm-hmm.
How
do you do it?
How do you do it?
How do you do it?
Yeah.
Well, I think that I like all of this, right? And I'll get to like the actual sales part of it in a second, but I always tell people that you are selling all the time, right? I mean, if you're a photographer and you're charging any kind of money for anything, you are in sales. So just get used to that, first of all. Like, it can be an ugly word if you choose to allow it to be, and that's programming. So if you've got some programming around sales is slimy, that does need to be worked on, right? So that's that part that needs to be addressed, looked at, and rewired in a lot of different ways. And again, this looks different for everybody. But at the heart of it, you are selling the whole time, right? You know, from the time that they find you online, from the time that, you know, you were on a session with them. When I'm out shooting with somebody, I'm talking about that album from the get-go. Like, they hear about my albums on my website. They hear about it in the first inquiry email. They hear about it on the phone call. They hear about it. They hear about it on Instagram. Yes. They hear about it everywhere. Like, they know. So like, by the time they sit down with me for that sales session, they're getting an album.
Right.
I know they're getting an album.
Asked.
They're getting an album. They know they're getting an album because it has been embedded. And that is a sales technique. It's NLP as well. Like, you're going to embed some things in the way that words are important. The way that you use the words are important. So a lot of people get tripped up in the sales session, though, because what I see the most happen is that they lose control of the sales session because it's so scary and fearful. Like, you know, I always tell my coaching clients, I don't let people drive. Like, no one's ever touching the computer. That's my job. Like, I know a lot of photographers will just hand that computer over and let them choose. No, you're not an order taker. You're guiding them. This is your specialty, right? So you set the tone. They walk in, I always sit to the left of them because it's psychologically an unconscious trigger. That's a little sales tip. Just in general, you should be sitting to like their left if you can. And when they come in, I give them the framework. Like, this is how it's going to roll out. You guys have a seat, get comfy. There's usually fresh baked cookies because I'm going on all the senses here. Yeah. And you want to engage them, you know, obviously make them feel safe. And then I let them know, like, we're going to look at the slideshow first. Don't even think about making choices right now because you're just going to enjoy the slideshow. And then after that, we're going to do a first pass. This is not your final answer. Like, I walk them through what's going to happen and how it's going to go. And so I'm in control of that situation the entire time. Yeah. Some people just lose control of it. And that's what I work with them most on, is how to stay in control of it and how to get back in control if you do lose control. Because the thing that always happens usually, especially with the senior portraits, is the dad. That's the thing I hear the most. Those is like, dads. The dad came, and I'm like, I love when dads come. And they're like, why? You know? So you do have to be ready for things like that. But as far as like the closing, that last thing of, okay, well, how would you like to pay, right? I have an order form, a physical order form that I use. And I think this makes it a little bit easier too, because as we're going through, obviously I'm kind of writing everything down, and yes, I'm gonna put it in my CRM and I'm gonna have it nice and pretty for them. But I'm handwriting it in person. And I think that does, for me anyway, it makes a difference, and I feel like it makes it a little bit easier for people. Once it's all written up and I total everything and I take my phone out and do my little math, you know, and make sure it's right, because I'm not a math girl. Like, I don't trust it in my head. I'm definitely using my calculator. But I have it all written out, and there's a disclaimer at the bottom that says sales are final, and they sign it, right? And I think that definitely helps in a lot of different ways, because I just kind of put it back. I'm like, okay, so here's what we're gonna do. You got this, you got this. This is going to be designed. You're going to see a proof of it. I kind of go over the whole thing. Here's your total. And how would you like to pay? Kind of credit card. Would you like to do a check or a credit card? Like, what works best for you? You know, that's easy. It's that easy, right? But getting yourself to that place, that's the programming. If you find it like me when I used to want to throw up, right? I literally would break out in hives before asking people for money. A lot of this is working on the programming and reframing it, but also doing it. You have to do it, right? Because the doing of it and the successful doing of it builds confidence.
Right.
So you have to push through it as well, right? But you definitely need to find out why, because most of us humans just love to equate our worth with money.
Right.
So if you have any issues with not feeling worthy for any reason, you're going to equate it to I'm not worthy of money.